Industry standards, codes, permits, we need them all. They're important when you're trying to get a project done, right? At least if you're doing things the old way. But what if, as your business, you're trying to bring a new way to market, a new way of doing things? Well, you're going to get pushback. You're going to have to show grit, and you're going to hear about it. Sande Golgart is our guest next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
And so let's get cooking. So a little bit of insight into how I do these shows. I do a little bit of prep, and I try to come up with something witty because no one will listen until I do. And so I try to impress myself first and then impress others. I don't think I've done that, but I came up with something called a fixture of change. And I'm talking about my guest today on A Dash of Grit. Now, a fixture of change makes no sense. Fixture, change. But our guest today has made it his business to disrupt things. And I think when people are looking for change and new opportunities and new ways to create office space and to create their business models, they look to him to say, how can we do this differently? I think that's the way I've been able to identify you, Sande. Sande Golgart is our guest today on A Dash of Grit. Very quickly, he has been the chief sales officer at the Magispace. He's had a 16-year career with Regis, and so he knows his stuff. He's also currently the president of Zonez. That's a modular construction company that creates office space. I'll let him tell you everything that they do, but it's about the experience that matters, and that's enough out of me. Sande Golgart is our guest today on Dash of Grit. Sande, welcome.
Ryan, thank you for having me. I wrote that down. I'm going to start using that.
Oh, good. I'll send you the bill. No worries. Okay. That's perfect.
Deal.
Well, and that's what you are, a fixture of change. And I want you to talk about, if you would, tell people a little bit about what you do, what Zonez is, why you've been successful. We're going to get into the hurdles that you've crossed, and you've crossed many. I can't wait to share those stories. But tell me what's good and what Zonez is and why you're so excited about this company.
Yeah, thank you. So Zonez is a unique company in that construction has been one of the last industries to really be disrupted. And that's because there have been so few alternatives. You know, if you can't build it yourself, you need somebody else to build it for you. And the route to getting things built for decades has been you find a general contractor, you find an architect, you go to the city, you beg and plead for a permit. You adhere to all the codes. You go through this very, pretty dated series of steps that makes it incredibly difficult to get anything done. Yep. And in today's world, the speed of change is so rapid and it's accelerating that construction really has a difficult time keeping up. So one of the things that got me so passionate about modular construction as the senior vice president at Regis, my core responsibility was to maximize revenue and profit per square foot of the 250 locations that I was in charge of. And part of my job was to look at and evaluate the locations that we had and find ways to spot inefficiencies and find ways to change those to make the space more efficient and drive more revenue and more profit per square foot. Okay. All companies kind of do that, but it's much more important when that is your actual business. And one of the big frustrations that I had and constantly ran into was the moment we tried to engage traditional construction to help us change our space, you found that it was incredibly expensive. It took a lot of time. It was very disruptive, and it was very insensitive to our environment. So typically you throw away everything that you demolish. You build again, only to just basically say, we're going to throw all this in the landfill as well. And it would take so much time, cost so much money. We could literally only approve 10% of the jobs that we wanted to do because of traditional construction.
So you're trying to grow and you're trying to make a difference and you're trying to do things right. But the old school way, I mean, it took grit just to get through all the grit, and then you still end up with nothing. Okay.
Exactly. Continue. And then many times by the time that you actually get it built, 6 months have passed, maybe a year, and you're out of date again. Yep. Right. So construction and business don't generally work that well together in this world of accelerating change. So that really had me frustrated. And that's usually where entrepreneurs start their story. I was just so frustrated and wondering, why was it this way? There has to be a better way. And I started to tune into modular construction. And it just struck me that this is the way of the future, where things could be built elsewhere and assembled on site, so that, whether it's a home, a restaurant, a high-rise hotel, all of those things are moving towards more modular construction. And I thought, this is perfect for the office space. And the part of me was, people they often misunderstand real estate, because you hear things like Google's office space and all these cool, crazy things, and the open floor plan and this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And you start to lose track of what office space is for. And the pandemic has put a bright spotlight on this for many companies. Real estate for businesses is really nothing more, especially office space. It's really nothing more than a support mechanism. So great space does a great job providing people with what they need, when they need it, for the type of work that they need to do at a particular time. So companies are starting to learn that it's not a one size fit all. There's not a one model. The best companies at the forefront of this change, they understand that the best real estate for their employees is the one that provides them with the support they need to do a job when they need it. And now people are starting to wake up to the fact that doesn't have to be your corporate headquarters. That doesn't have to be, this destination space that you go to, like a robot every day and sit at a desk and just put your head down and do your work. You might need to have quiet time in the morning and avoid a commute, and your home office might be perfect for that. You might want to go to a place that's 5 minutes from your house and then meet at the corporate headquarters when you need to collaborate with other teams. Then you might need to break away and get some privacy to do, a podcast or an important sales video call, whatever it is. And so to do that and do that effectively, you need access to tools that are going to help you quickly and efficiently provide your employees with what they need, when they need it, for the type of work that they need. And modular construction fits that bill better than anything else. So our clients can go to a menu and say, we need a phone booth for privacy because, all of them are being used. We need another meeting room. We need another office. And you can literally have that done over a weekend and come to work the next day, and it's all put together. It's clean. It's not disruptive. It's great for the environment and all those things. And that's what's made Zonez such a success at what we do, because there's such a massive need for it. And it's a growing need. It's the fastest growing segment of, the office space and furniture, contract furniture market. And then, of course, all of that got disrupted again, with COVID, which we can get into a little later. Unfortunately, we were built well to be able to adapt to all the changes that's and challenges that's brought forward.
Yeah, almost by design, because you're there for a business that needs to change on a dime. I don't need a podcast today; I need it tomorrow. And so I'm not building today for what I don't even know I need tomorrow. Your company comes in and takes care of what's the work you need to do now, who needs to do it, and what's the most efficient and best way, and we can have you up and running. And so I'm assuming, and this is where we start getting into the hurdles and the problems, I'm assuming that the construction industry, which doesn't change, pushed back. What were it's working really well now. Let's talk about some of the struggles that it took to get this business started or off on the ground and make it a success. Where did you find some troubles?
Well, there are always issues, when you're disrupting something, because people in general don't like change. No. And those who are benefiting from the way things are and have been recognize that this is a big potential derailer to what they do. So they fight it like crazy. You can imagine, taxi cab drivers when Uber came around, right? Like, oh, wait, what do you mean they can take a ride in a nice, clean car? At the time it was a black, town car for less than I could come pick you up in my cab. This is terrible. Actually, it's better.
It's great.
But they're going to fight it like crazy. And they did fight it like crazy. Sure. The same thing with modular construction. Most general contractors and other people in that industry fight it very hard, because if you can put it together elsewhere, bring it, and a typical person with a little bit of experience can now put together a great room, that now makes their job less important. And so for those small jobs, and we find all the time, general contractors and people in the traditional construction world constantly trying to drive a wedge between us and their customer because they want all the work, not because it's better or not good for the customer. They just want to be paid to be able to do it. And if you can put it together easily, you're not going to pay somebody and go through those 6, 7, 8 steps to get there if you don't have to.
Yeah. And it's almost like if we all would just, and this is a topic for something completely different, if we would all adopt that abundance mentality, the truth is that if you all work together, think of the things that you can do and the things that you can build. We can build open spaces that allow for modular construction within, and we can do all these things instead of fighting the process. So talk to me a little bit about then the hurdles and the grit and the places where you as an entrepreneur, whether it's this company or others in your past, talk to us about grit. Our customers, our listeners are out there trying to do it themselves too. And they're trying to build the next thing and trying to get ahead of things. And they look across the street at their neighbor and say, well, how come he's got it so easy and I've got it so hard? And so tell me about when it wasn't so great.
Well, it's never so great, right? I think when you embark on this, whether you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, professional, you have to fully embrace the entire journey. And in that journey comes struggle, right? Without the struggle, you don't have all of the other things, or everybody would be doing it.
Yeah,
most people I talk to have this misconception that entrepreneurship, that's the easy thing where you play golf all the time and you live in a great house and
rolling in
you
cash,
hardly have
right?
to work. Just rolling in, you never have any problems. Totally not the case. You're fighting battles all the time, and without grit, you quickly move away from it and you go back to the stability of a paycheck, the stability of benefits, the stability of someone else taking on all that risk. So I think you have to embrace it and not hope that it's easier. You have to understand, because challenges come at you every single day, all day long. And so you just have to look at them all and say, we expected this. We didn't know it was going to come in this shape or form, but this is part of the deal. So how are we going to solve it? And once you embrace that, and if that's part of your personality, then it's never a big setback. It's just the next challenge.
Yeah. And
you just become better and better at problem solving and the destination. I think the one thing that is unique that everyone tuning in really should pay attention to is a lot of times we get so micro focused on who are our competitors? Who is it that we're competing with? When the reality I have found is you really have to understand your biggest competitor. And I don't mean to say this in as negative way as it might come across, but it's ignorance. It's the fact that people don't know your solution exists. So you have to find that way to spread, to do a really great job. And then how do you get more people to know about it, understand it? Because the biggest thing that we fight is most people do what they do because they did it that way before, right? So even people that you talk to or might tune into this podcast, a week later, they'll go, oh, we need a new room. And rather than going, there's got to be a better way, they go, oh yeah, so we have to go through that 8-step process. We have to, disrupt the space for 6 months. We have to do that. Why? Because that's the way we've always done it. And the reality is there's so many better, more efficient ways of getting those things done.
Yeah. Can you give me a specific story, perhaps, of when you have a better solution, you have the better option, you've got the better mousetrap, and yet you run up against something that just wants you to just throw up your hands and say, no, I'm going back to the easy, comfy world where the benefits, these people just aren't getting it. Can you give me an example in your history where you just kind of felt like throwing in the towel, it just wasn't going to work, and then maybe how we got through that?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship is like 2 days out of the week, you feel like throwing in the towel, and 3 days out of the week, you're so happy that you didn't. You get that avalanche of things on given days where it's like, how can this much, be against us?
Yeah.
And I think the toughest times are when you've found that perfect client and you're like, these guys get it. They understand it. We had a great meeting. We're ready to put our solution in there. And for an unexplainable reason, they revert back and go against everything you had in your conversation. And they go, we just decided to do it the old fashioned way. And you go, why? And they don't even really have a good reason other than it's safer. You know, a lot of times in construction is one of those industries where there's a major lack of transparency. So it's very difficult to read a construction bid and really pull apart how much it costs for one thing to get done. And so it's easy to kind of manipulate the way one minor project in that looks, right? And you say, oh, we could do it for $1,000. Why would you pay $5,000 for that suite? And then you dive into it. If you know how to read that bid, you go, oh, well, their management fee just went up $5,000. You know, so the room costs $1, but to manage building the room, and a lot of people just don't know how to look and read, you know, those types of things. So those are the most frustrating, when you feel like you had somebody, and we run into projects like that, you know, quite a bit, where fortunately not more than we run into the ones who follow through. Yeah. But where people are like, they just got right to it. They put a toe in the water and then they freaked out and they ran the other way and went back to where they're comfortable. And then the good thing about that is, and I remember when we were just getting started, we did this great build out for a company who's now thriving with their success. And, you know, they put it together and everything, you know, went great. You run into a few stumbling blocks. We worked through that. And then they had someone from the old way of doing it approach them and say, you know, you shouldn't have done that. I could do it for a fraction of the cost. And they said, wait, what, really? Oh, yeah. So the next time they needed to change something, they went back, they reverted back, and they were like, man, maybe we just spent way too much money. This guy put a really attractive bid in front of them. They went and did that, only to find out it actually ended up costing them about 50% more by the time they worked their way through the whole project. And then they came back to us saying, we're so sorry, but you know, experience is the best teacher. Now we know better. And then we continued to do their build out. And when they're growing, this is a company that does like packaging, you know, package drops, kind of like Amazon's business, where you have a locker. They do something very similar to that. And so their headquarters, they're expanding so quickly, they need to change all the time. And they realized really quick, once the traditional construction went in, they were a prisoner of the way it was built before. So now everything had to revolve around that, or they had to go through 6 months of mess, you know, disruption. And when you're moving that fast, you just can't afford, you don't want to be walking to their next meeting, stepping over, you know, somebody who's, you know, building out a new room for you. And if you have to do that every 6 months, that's a really, you know, big pain in the neck.
Yeah. And so you might be the perfect person to ask this question to. An entrepreneur or a business person wants to do it better. And so it has to be a little bit different. You're the disruptor. You're the fixture of change. How do you take your idea to market where there isn't a market? In the construction industry, it's always done A, B, C. We need blueprints. We need, you know, quotes. This is how we do it. And it's going to take X amount of years. You're setting that whole thing on its end. But the person on the other side has got to make a decision. Do I go with the way I trust, the way it's always been done, the way I know works, or do I go with this new guy named Sandy, who seems to have a better idea that makes sense, but I don't know that I can convince people that it makes sense? Like, that's like the entrepreneurial struggle, no matter what you're doing, because you always want to do something different.
Right.
So how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I think that's, for me, I can just tell you, you know, what we have done. And this came about when the pandemic hit, and we knew we had to change, but rather than try to guess at what people wanted and do things that we thought worked better, we pumped the brakes. We did massive amount of research. We talked to the people that this would impact the most. We found out what their biggest challenges were going to be. We took that then back to our engineers who have decades of experience. And we said, these are the problems these people are telling us they're going to have. What are your thoughts? And they gave us all of their thoughts. And then we brought that back to that same group and said, this is what our engineers are saying. What do you think? And they said, that would fix a lot of the problems we're going to have. And we also need to do it, you know, even further. And this is kind of wrong, but if you could fix that. And what I'm getting at is by doing the research and finding out what are the real problems that the end users are saying they have, getting their buy-in to the way they might be fixed, getting expertise on how you can actually fix and address those problems, and then problem solving and rapid prototyping over and over and over until you get it right. Then what you're doing is you're bringing something to market that they are already aware of. They just don't know it exists because they can articulate the same problems. So when you're bringing it to market, like we did with our new Clean Zones air filtration system, we were already prepared to not talk about the product. We weren't showing people like, look at this. What do you think? It was, we did a bunch of research and these are what your peers in the market were saying. These are their biggest challenges. Do you have those same challenges? Yes. Well, our engineers have created this. Here's how it works. This is what it solves. And they go, that's what I need. Right. So because we're addressing a big void and a big problem that exists, it's so much easier than trying to show someone, the next pet rock and telling them why it's so cool to put these googly eyes and have it sit on your desk and just say, please like it. Please like it. What do you need to do? Right. So that I think is the biggest lesson, is finding out what the real problem is, finding out a way to make it better, and then confirming with people, would this solve your problem? Would it solve it better? Is this better than any other option you looked at? And when you start getting those confirmations, and trust me, they weren't all confirmations early on. They were, it doesn't quite do it, or, oh, you forgot about this. And so, but by going through that process, you're aiming at a very defined target. You're aiming very small, so your chance to miss is not nearly as big. And then you're bringing it back to them and saying, this is how we can solve that problem for you. And when someone has solved a problem for you, whether it's conveniently delivering your groceries to your home or, whatever it is, then you go, well, this is something I would do. And I think for us, that's been the biggest lesson is, and we're very grateful and that people were willing to share that and really express what their biggest problems were going to be. Then it made our job that much easier rather than trying to guess and trying to throw stuff at them, which is a real, that's a major problem, right? In trying to launch a product. If you want to make your life really miserable, try, just guessing what people want and trying to roll that out and then try to force them through marketing and everything else to like what you're doing. It's so much easier just to solve the problem, do it better than anything else that exists today. And then, constantly work to improve that. The acceptance rate is so much higher and so much easier to then scale from that point forward.
Yeah. So along those lines, tell me about a time, because I bet you there are some, that you asked and you did the research and you had the idea. I mean, you've done a lot of change and you've upset a lot of cycles in your career. You knew what you needed. You knew what you had to create. You created exactly what you thought you had to create. You took it to market and it was wrong, or you took it to the customer and it was wrong. Like how do you overcome it? The reason I asked the question, I know that the definition of success is how many times do you fail? I mean, you people who are afraid of failure are never going to be successful.
Right.
You've had to have failed a couple of times, or extremely short-lived. Yeah. Or it's fake or whatever it might be.
Right.
I'm just interested in a specific story you might have of where it just didn't work and you really had to kind of turn around and do something about it.
Yeah. I mean,
or are you just that good?
No. It's like, which one do I point out? I'll tell you one that I think more of your listeners will benefit from.
Okay. And
it is, so when we first got into this business, we were working with the venture capital company and they were all about, speed and get this thing done, get it, moving. And we found a lot of people who were expressing this need for privacy. And the need for privacy, again, is now becoming like the fastest growing segment of commercial office space and contract furniture. Mm-hmm. And so what they were saying to us was, there are a few companies who do this, but it is so expensive. Very few people can actually afford it, but there's so many more people who need it. So if you could create a similar mousetrap, but find a way to bring it to market at a better price point, we knew that we had a great opportunity. And we knew that the market cap, all the research lined up. It was about now creating the best possible product. Where we failed, where it became really difficult, was we didn't have everybody on the same page. So we had people in operations who were just focused on, well, this sounds easy. Give them a cheap product and we'll do it at a cheap price, but we'll still make tons of margin.
Okay. So you're talking about people within your organization weren't on the same page. Okay. Yep.
Exactly. And they didn't have the expertise to do what we were wanting to do. Right. So, if you look back on things like Built to Last, right, or Good to Great, and they'll all say, like, make sure you have the right people on the bus, and then that's more important than your strategy and everything else. And this was one of those times where an opportunity came up. Our venture capital firm wanted one thing. A couple of the owners wanted something sort of like that. Other owners wanted something totally different. Operations wanted something completely different. And so the attempts to roll it out were missing the mark so big that it was kind of getting laughed at, and it was like, and
that kills the brand, and that limits your second shot and everything brand. Like that. Yeah.
It kills internal, camaraderie, right?
Buy-in and optimism. Yeah.
So then it's like, this is so right on the mark for what the market needs, but it's missing the mark so badly by the lack of quality, the lack of attention to detail. And it's like, building something cheap isn't a strategy, right? And there's Canal Street and some places like that where you could find that stuff all over it, but you pay $1 for it.
Yep.
For us, we really then struggled, and it almost became like this internal fight of, now what do we do? This is so bad. And then all you had were people raising up the hair on their neck saying, well, it's not our fault. Like, you guys are the ones that wanted to roll it out at this price point. Well, it's not our fault. And that's where I think you're done before you even get started. So I was out still being the ambassador, trying my best to bring back the feedback and trying to bring back all the market research, trying to bring back everything that would finally get everyone to arrive on the same page.
Yeah.
But then people reluctantly going with it, and maybe not putting all of it in. And then by the end of it, it was like, well, here it is, but it cost a lot more than we thought. And that was because we didn't have necessarily the right operations and engineering people who, and this was a different company, but at the time, they just didn't have the expertise to deliver what we need, right?
That thing imagine, that you needed at the time, right?
Imagine Uber launching and going, God, everyone wants a better, safer, cleaner way to utilize the downtime of these, town cars.
Yeah.
And somebody said, oh, yeah, I could do that. I'm your chief technology officer, but I don't know how to build an app. I can only do other things, so I'll launch it. Well, if you don't have the right person or group or team that can deliver that, you're going to miss the mark. And that's one example that's painful because we all knew that opportunity was there. Mm-hmm. Somebody did come into that market, kind of gobble up that space quickly, and did it. They took a better approach with the right people on the team and took that initial first mover advantage.
And so when that happens, and when that happened then, was it the team wasn't right to do the job, or the job wasn't right for the team? Which would you have, going back now, would you have said no to the job and keep the great team? Or would you have said, let's fix the team and let's figure out a way to win this job? Which is more important at that stage?
Yeah, it's much more important to fix the people. Right. Yeah. For the opportunity.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Tough decisions, but 100% the ones that have to be made.
Yeah. Or decide not to take that opportunity on at all. Right.
Yeah.
That's the other hard decision.
Right. The problem was it was within the wheelhouse of what we were capable as a company and what the underlying product could deliver. We just didn't have the right sophistication of the way it got built to really make it huge successful mousetrap that it could have and should have been.
It's interesting that
was
just a couple of degrees off makes for complete total failure, right? You almost had it, and yet couldn't overcome.
It's not to say that any of these people weren't already successful either.
No.
They were just successful doing things a different way and thinking different and not aligned, right? So it's finding the people who are aligned well with what needs to be brought to market, who can deliver it. Because if they can't, there are so many people out there who can. Yeah. And if you take the first mover advantage and you flop, someone's going to hear it, see it, and go, "Oh, I could do that."
Sure.
And they go get the right people, and they can fly, right past you. So, and if you don't have that from day one at the start line, right? It's like if you're in a 4x4, race, 4x100, and you get done with the first lap, and you go, "Oh, we need to go up in the stands and recruit new people." Well, the race is over by the time you get anybody down there, right? If you didn't show up with the right team to begin with.
Yeah, the same kind of analogy.
There's always finishing last.
There's always someone drafting right behind you, ready for you just to slow down for any reason, and they'll take off right around you. So let's talk a little bit about Zonez, spelled Zonez for those that are interested. What are the hurdles? Where are you going to need to show grit here in the coming days, weeks, months? What's on the horizon for your company that you're really going to have to overcome here moving forward?
Yeah. So one of the, I think the key things in any kind of innovation and product is you have to make the complex easy, right? And that's a constant struggle. So with the launch of Clean Zones, that has bought us some time to reevaluate, our freestanding rooms and really dial in what are those things that are going to make it even easier for people to use and build, get past code requirements and all that. Mm-hmm. And so we've repackaged and relaunched with a couple of, truly innovative advantages. And so now it becomes another education process of getting back out to people, finding those people who are actually going to be moving and thriving, because there is I think it's not a stretch to say a lot of companies are going to struggle coming out of this pandemic, because I think there's a lag in when, we're coming off of depression levels of unemployment and some other things. And we have stimulus packages that are masking some of that. So a lot of people have already gone out of business, and it's going to be really important that we stay really focused with the people who do need to move quickly. They need the flexibility, and it's in their plans to incorporate it, and making sure those are the people that we spend time with. Because we do have something that is totally distinguished now from what everyone else is building. We just have to make sure we're spending it with the right people, because a lot of people will be interested in learning about it, but maybe not moving forward with it, not now and maybe 2-3 years down the road. That's one of an entrepreneur's biggest challenges, is staying focused and not allowing yourself to be distracted, because that might feel like, well, I'm educating for 3 years down the road. Well, the product will educate them 3 years down the road anyway. Mm-hmm. We need to spend our time with the right people who can appreciate it and can use it and can pay for it, today. And so that's critical.
And so is your hurdle a marketing issue, or is it a research issue? Is it a product development issue, or is it getting in front of the right people?
I think it's all of the above.
That's too easy of an answer.
You have to dial all of them in, right? We've actually gone back and we've completely torn apart our website. You won't see it when you go there now, but behind the scenes, it's completely torn apart on a development server. And we've stripped out all the things that are not essential. We've rebuilt it to make sure that everything we talk about has to do with, our discernible advantages, how we make the complex simple. How can you try it? The trialability of it. So we've incorporated that, which is kind of unheard of. You can try our product for 60 days and you can send it back, no questions asked. So that's unheard of in the construction world. And then really relying on the partners and people we have served very well to come to the forefront and be advocates on our behalf to tell the rest of the world how great the product is. And really making sure we don't introduce any more noise than that, because that's really all people need to know is, how does it work? Why is it better? How do I try it out? How does this make my complex world more simple and check all the boxes, and who else is using it? Who can I learn from?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the marketing piece. And then it's making sure that then through research gets in front of all the right companies where those things make the most sense. It doesn't take much, though, to look into people who run real estate to find anyone that wouldn't benefit from being able to look at a menu and point and click versus go through those 6 to 8 different steps and that arduous process. That exists. We just need to make sure that those people that we're talking to are the right ones who can do something with it right away.
Yeah. Do you often find, that'll be my last question, do you often find that folks in your market, you do a lot of change, a lot of new product development, things of that sort, don't know what they're looking for, even though your solution is sitting right there? They just don't quite know the right question to ask to solve the need that they have?
No, they're actually very good at asking questions. One of the things in the construction world is that people who have been burned by new ways of doing things have often they don't have the experience. Our company behind us with 30 years of modular construction experience, we built in every county in the US, 38 different countries, almost 40,000 projects. So we know every code requirement. We know every problem that can come at you, and we've solved for that before. And what you'll find, like in construction, for example, people who know construction know to ask all those things about Class A fire ratings and code requirements and seismic strapping and all those things that you have to have very good sound answers for, or you're not going to help. You're actually going to hurt, that project.
Mm-hmm. So, Sandy, thank you for being with us. I know there's people out there listening that are going to love your entrepreneurial success and the information that you have and the change agent that you are, and they might just want to reach out and talk to you about that. They also may be in business or in schools or building situations, and maybe you've struck a nerve with them and they might want to reach out. So how would they reach out to you, Sandy, and get in touch? Yeah, the best way and easiest way is I'm on LinkedIn, and every time I check, I'm the only Sande Golgart, spelled Sande. So they can find me there. It should be really easy. For the company, they can all go to Zonez, zonez.com. If they want to learn about the Clean Zone solution that we launched, which is by far and away the most popular solution that we have and most timely right now, they can go to Clean Zones, all one word, clean, zonez.com, and read up on that. And or download our Back to Work white paper, which can give them a ton of good knowledge so they can make the right decision and be able to think, and understand whether it's right for them and their situation. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that folks will feel comfortable and free to reach out to you. I was talking to my daughter the other day. She said, what am I going to do how will I know when I'm successful, or what if I'm not successful? She's 16. And I said, honey, I've been doing this podcast. I've been meeting a lot of entrepreneurs and successful people. And Sandy, I think you'll agree with me. You just never are you? You're never done creating the next thing. You're never done trying to be successful. Is that accurate? I told her, so it better not be a lie. Well, I'll give you my answer. I think you are accurate. I think the best way to tell is look around at the 5 or 10 people that you consider friends. Right? Because I do think people can fall into situations where they're not surrounded by people who will propel their success. And it's usually by the people they're associating with, working with, serving. If you look around, you go, people I'm working around and working with are very successful. Chances are you're in the right crowd and you too are going to be very successful. If you're around people who are constantly trying to pull you back, tell you no, tell you why you're not good enough, you can find yourself, if you don't recognize that, down a path that may not support your success. And so to be successful, you might have to surround yourself with new people. That would be my answer. That is great advice. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you, Sandy, for being a guest on A Dash of Grit. A quick plug for us at Spire. We want you to know we are a marketing company that helps organizations, large and small, in creating a proper brand and creating a proper opportunity to grow and to get past some of these ceilings and opportunities for grit. So Spire comes alongside your team as a team and helping you accomplish some of those goals. If you'd like to reach out to us, we're at spiread.com. My name is Brian Leffelock. I'm the Director of Sales at Spire. You can reach me, Brian, at spiread.com. And thank you once again to Sande Golgart, President of Zonez. And you can find him at Zonez. Is Zonez.com, correct, Sande?
That's correct.
Very good. We are Dash of Grit. We're here once a week on Spotify and wherever you find podcasts near you. Until the next one, go win the day. Thank you, Sande, for being a guest on A Dash of Grit.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Brian.
You got it.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.